In November 2011, the Penn State Board of Trustees appointed former FBI Director and federal judge Louis Freeh to conduct an independent investigation of the university's response to the allegations of sexual abuse committed by former Penn State assistant coach Jerry Sandusky. Prior to the appointment, the Special Investigations Task Force, led by Trustee Ronald Tamales and myself, reviewed proposals from numerous law firms and others to conduct the investigation. The task force interviewed 2 final candidates and selected Judge Freeh.
The hiring of Louis Freeh, which I certainly encouraged. In fact, I provided his name. I don't know if others did, but I provided his name.
But why wouldn't the Board of Trustees, the group that has paramount accountability for overseeing and ensuring the proper functioning and governance of the university, take the needed time to adequately review this report?
We will be closely studying this document as we continue to push forward in identifying and implementing necessary changes across the entire university. The report is new. We're just, seeing it. We saw it for the first time today. You can be sure that we'll be digesting further below the 4 people who were already named who knew what. The report includes some information about individuals, and we have yet to have a chance to explore all of the details on that since we just received it this morning.
We do not intend to do an independent review.
And can you explain why you don't think that's important?
Because that's actually not part of what we commissioned the report for. We commissioned the report so that we could have a set of recommendations for how we could improve our governance.
From our initial review, it's clear that Judge Freeh has delivered a comprehensive account that provides needed clarity for our university. And on behalf of Penn State, I thank him and his team for their professionalism and hard work.
I found the report to be inaccurate in some respects, to be speculative and unsupported by the record that was compiled in the course of preparing the report, and in short, fundamentally flawed.
The Freeh report, as it pertains to Dr. Spanier, is a myth. And that myth, along with the free pass that its author has enjoyed thus far, ends today.
Judge Freeh, a former FBI director and federal judge, has unimpeachable credentials and unparalleled experience in law and criminal justice.
We received a report, and there's been lots of suggestions that we've accepted all 267 pages. That's not accurate at all.
And of course, the Freeh report was commissioned by the Board of Trustees, and the Board of Trustees accepted that report. I would say that that doesn't necessarily mean that members of the Board of Trustees agree with every aspect of the report, but we certainly agree with the recommendations of the report and are moving ahead very swiftly to implement those recommendations.
Had a incredibly thorough investigation that the university itself had accepted.
We hired an independent investigator to explore and provide his expert opinions and findings. However, the Freeh report, despite what the NCAA consent decree says, is still being reviewed, as we heard here today, and has not been fully accepted.
We said that we accepted the Freeh report for the purposes of that consent decree.
The reasonable conclusion that we make is that all 4 individuals that I've mentioned, including Mr. Paterno, made a decision to actively conceal the knowledge and the events of February 2011. I can't parse between them degrees of responsibility. What's significant and shocking is that the 4 of them, the most powerful people in Penn State University, made a decision to conceal this information.
Do you believe that Coach Paterno was a part of the conspiracy to conceal, to cover up the crimes at Penn State by Jerry Sandusky?
I do not, and I'm viewing this strictly on the evidence, not any kind of fealty to anybody. I did not find that evidence.
Louis Freeh's, I'm going to use the word theatrics in describing the conclusions, went to motives that I don't think anyone here truly believes.
Taking into account the available witness statements and evidence, it is more reasonable to conclude that in order to avoid the consequences of bad publicity, the most powerful leaders at Penn State University, Mr. Spanier, Schultz, Paterno, and Curley, repeatedly concealed facts relating to Sandusky's child abuse from the authorities, the Board of Trustees, the Penn State community, and the public at large.
No one has said that Joe Paterno was afraid of bad publicity. That motive is just vacuous, it's not there, and it was a wrong conclusion on the part of Freeh.
It's the football's fault, is basically what you've said.
Well, no, I think that would be a wrong conclusion.
Well, the reverence for Penn State football permeated every level of the university.
Yes.
That's from the consent decree.
Yes.
So you've laid it at the foot of the way people basically genuflected in front of Joe Paterno's program.
It's certainly in front of the athletic department, and clearly when you look at the facts and the conclusions that we all reached in looking at the data that was delivered, the objective data in the Freeh report, we concluded that indeed that culture had gotten out of control, and it is the culture of big football that allowed, at least in part, this to occur.
There's certainly a view out there that was articulated in the report that this was all about football, that football was the most important thing, and that if something was going to prejudice the football program, that he ought to exert every effort to keep it under the wraps. Well, there's nothing in the record that indicates that. That's the kind of speculation that we all indulge in from time to time when we think lesser of people. But that's not got a basis in the record. And a report like this deserves to have a solid record as the basis for its finding. And it's not there.
Louis Freeh gathered some facts. We can't go through each and every one of the facts or assertions, but then he assigned motivations to people, including Paterno, which at best were unknowable and at worst might have been irresponsible.
I'm committed to ensuring that our independent investigation be conducted in a thorough, fair, comprehensive manner, leaving no stone unturned and without any fear or favor.
That the effort was one that was incomplete, one that was truncated, one that left a lot to be desired when it came to getting to the basic truths involved in the activities that took place here.
The Sandusky scandal should be looked at as a teachable moment. How do we deal with a child predator in our midst? And I'm concerned, we heard from the governor, we've heard from many others, that the Freeh report is incomplete at best and at worst fundamentally flawed. We are basing a lot of recommendations through the Board of Trustees at Penn State on that Freeh report. We have spent in excess of $80 million, and some think we can spend in excess of $150 million. That's a lot of money to be being spent on an incomplete report.
Does this mean you're repudiating the Freeh report?
No. What it means is that the Freeh report is an incomplete report. The Freeh report was never adopted by the Board of Trustees, and it is incomplete.
It is the fact that we are not educating ourselves as to what real offenders do, what real victims act like, and how they use the dynamics of grooming to get access, authority, and control over children. If we don't learn those things, if we don't change our perspective as a country, we are going to continue to let people like Jerry Sandusky offend decade after decade after decade.
Because it doesn't matter if it's a little story or a big story. If you get it wrong, it's going to hurt somebody.
For the group that has paramount accountability for overseeing and ensuring the proper functioning and governance of the university to take the needed time to adequately review this report.